Hey everyone, Anthony Fantano here, internet's busiest music nerd. I'm zigging and zagging. Hope you're doing well. And let me talk real quick, relatively quick. Let me rant here about this new video clip that has come out via a new HBO sports program that has been launched by LeBron James. It's called The Shop. And it's kind of a casual hangout discussion show where LeBron invites on other athletes, entertainers, and they're kind of in a very posh looking barbershop setting, and wine's getting kicked back and discussions are being had and so on and so forth. And this big breakout episode that has been released features Drake. And there's a lot of different conversations going on across the episode, but there is a specific point in this episode where Drake essentially goes into the whole behind the scenes aspect and his whole mentality going through the whole Pusha T beef, the diss tracks going back and forth, so on and so forth. And it does reveal a lot of interesting things. Stuff that has for a while been rumored, but at this point pretty much confirmed, that Drake met up with Kanye prior to the release of some of their most recent works, and he said, "Oh, I want to work with you. Come on, come to Wyoming, come collaborate with me." Drake ends up writing for Kanye. Drake thought he was going to get a bit more sort of artistic support coming from the other direction. Drake talks about his son, who is pretty much secret at the time, and was talking about some of the personal issues he was going through, and theorizes, and not that it takes a lot to sort of connect the dots here, but still, theorizes that connection with Kanye, that meeting with Kanye where he gave him that information, he was writing for him, so on and so forth, that led to Kanye sharing that information with Pusha T. Pusha T puts it in the song, exposes Drake, embarrasses him, puts all of his personal information out there, and Drake essentially just kind of feels hurt because he trusted Kanye. He let Kanye into his life. He thought he was being a buddy and being a pal and being cool and being chill, but he double-crossed him. And so that's kind of the gist of the conversation. That's kind of the gist of the heartbreak. And breaking this down, essentially, what does it mean? A few things. For one, Kanye is most definitely a snake. Like that's some real snake-like behavior. I don't really think there's any doubting that Kanye is acting pretty weird these days. And it's strange not only to hear from Drake, who in this very puffy conversation piece, which is only meant to make all parties look great and correct and right in all of their decisions and choices, even though some of the interactions between Drake and LeBron are very weird in terms of, oh, I told him I'd never be not proud of him or disappointed in him no matter what he did, and so on and so forth. What I find kind of funny about Kanye's role in this is that he seemed pretty quick to jump out there and say, "Hey, it's all about love. I'm not, the beef is over. The beef is done," when clearly, like, you had a big role in kind of getting the ball rolling on the whole thing. Maybe you didn't think you were playing as large of a role as you were by just merely producing for Pusha T behind the scenes. Maybe you were a little angry about Drake's prior shot at Kid Cudi, and maybe you were still feeling some type of way over that, and you felt justified in your actions. Still, if you're going to go at somebody, doing it in kind of a roundabout, backwards, "Hey, I'm going to be your friend," and then turn on you in one moment without you being able to predict it, it's not exactly sportsmanlike. You know what I mean? Although, still, I'm going to kind of get into the mentality behind that deeper into the video. So there is that. The other part of it is, I wonder why Drake sort of fed so deeply into Kanye in the first place, because Kanye, he hasn't exactly been acting right lately, number one. Number two, this is also Mr. No New Friends. That's Drake's MO. I'm too big, I'm too above it all, I'm too famous, I'm too successful to get embroiled in all this rap drama, beef, friendship, whatever. So I'm just flying above all of it like I'm God. And thirdly, Kanye was still buddies with Pusha T, pretty close, president of his record label, and Pusha T has gone at you numerous times, and as far as I can tell, that beef has not been ameliorated or anything like that, assuming the tensions are still going on. And I mean, maybe you thought it was a little different because it was Kanye, but still they're pretty close. And one of his right-hand men is actively dissing you in tracks. I mean, sure, it's been a while, but still. That's just kind of somebody who I would look at skeptically no matter what, no matter how much I held their art in high regard, which Drake most definitely does, because, I mean, if it weren't for records like 808s, I don't even know if Drake would even have a career. So coming out of this clip with a lot of the information I already had going into it pretty much confirmed, yeah, I can say Kanye is looking pretty two-faced, but the last point that I want to make in this video is that ultimately, I don't really know if any of it matters, because here's one thing nobody's ever going to say. I'm just not going to listen to Kanye West anymore because of how he treated Drake. No one thinks that. And nobody's ever going to think that. And maybe Drake doesn't even think that that's going to be the case. But here's the thing. Ultimately, Drake's feelings being hurt over the expose, over the stuff that Pusha T said, stuff that he thinks that he should get punched in the fucking face. Look, it's diss songs. It's blood sport. It's in hip hop. It's as close as you can get to blood sport without literally punching and killing each other. So, especially in battle rap, there's a long history of shit not really being off limits. And there's not really much else you can say. You know, it's really about who can cut the deepest into the other person personally and emotionally so that they are thrown off their game, they're hurt, they're embarrassed. It's literally weaponizing your language. And sure, there are some casual hip-hop fans or some people who think that they are too civilized or deep or educated to really appreciate the point of all of it. But I would argue to those people that it was not intended for you. It's not for you. And the only reason you're exposed to it is because hip-hop is mainstream as the zeitgeist right now. If this were some other random jackass versus some other random rapper jackass's diss track, you wouldn't even be paying attention to it. But because it's Pusha T and because it's Drake, you know about it. And that's all. And because it's blood sport, nobody's going to really hold Pusha T's words against him. Nobody's really going to hold Kanye's actions against him. And ultimately, at the end of the day, I don't think that Drake or Kanye or Push's career has really been hurt by any of this. In fact, all of them made money off of it, is really what happened at the end of the day. You know, as Drake says, oh, I took that energy, I put it into me. And I made all these songs that people love. And I had songs that prior for Scorpion I didn't have before, and so on and so forth. So maybe even in a roundabout personal way, this was a W for Drake, even if he didn't come out on top with the diss tracks, because it did bring a lot of attention to him, created a lot of buzz, a lot of press, a lot of promotion that he did not have going into the release of Scorpion, because a lot of the singles going up to the release of that record were not that hot. And people were not going into that record thinking, oh man, I got to hear Drake's new direction and his new sound. People went into that new record thinking, oh man, I got to hear if he addresses this Pusha thing. I got to hear him rap about his kid. I got to hear him sort of go deeper narratively into all the drama that's been happening over the past few weeks. And which most definitely caused listeners to listen to that album more deeply than I think they would have otherwise. So I think all three of them benefited off of it. So because of that, there's really no reason for any fans in any one artist camp to look at one of them the wrong way, because at the end of the day, this is going to be all water off of a duck's back. Drake may have been a little emotional and a little upset about all of it, and rightly so, because he was definitely put into a corner, into an awkward situation. But here's the thing. I think Drake could have most definitely avoided being in that awkward situation if he did not play around acting like he was about it. But he's fucking not. He's a pop star who raps. He is not a battle rapper, and he's not even a rapper who makes his name off of diss tracks. Sure, you could point to the Meek diss, but that was the easiest fucking layup anybody in the history of diss tracks has ever been handed in hip-hop, period. Drake came out with 2 really compelling tracks. Meek took forever to respond, and when he eventually did, it was garbage. Anybody going at a rapper whose response was as trash as Meek's was, instant W. Instant W. It was made easy for Drake. And unfortunately, because of that, Drake, I think, got high off the smell of his own farts, and he heard that Push diss track, and he was probably feeling some type of way about the Kanye connection, and thought, well, I gotta respond to this, because I do diss tracks, and I can diss with the best of him, when in fact you can't. Because when somebody says something that's a bit too mean, or a bit too personal, or exposes some information that people didn't have access to yet publicly, you flake, you fold, and you disappear. And I understand why. Drake would rather make money and make chart hits than focus on making diss tracks at this guy who he is more popular than, ultimately. You know, it's a business move. It makes sense. If I was in that situation, I'd make the same decision. But if I was in that situation, I wouldn't be pretending like I was anything other than what I was, which is a pop artist who raps. So please continue in that lane, because you're not about the diss tracks. You're not about getting into the muck with any random rapper who steps to you. You're not about all that free schmoke. Okay? So Kanye Snake, Drake's a paper tiger, and yeah, I guess I'm just going to leave it at that. So those are my thoughts. Those are all my thoughts. And let me know what you think down in the comments. Did you take kindly to this sort of a Drake spiel about the diss track debacle? And what do you think about Kanye after all this, after Drake's confirmations of sort of how he played a role in all of this? I mean, it doesn't change my opinion on his music generally, but it adds to this ongoing pattern of his behavior being really inconsistent, zany, and just weird. Because here's the thing. I'm absolutely sure that Kanye was nice as pie to Drake when he said what he said to him in terms of collaborating or da-da-da-da-da. But considering what he did and how he did it, it seems like he either was not aware of what he was doing, his brain is literally dysfunctioning, or he was aware of what he was doing and he had malicious intentions and he was being just two-faced. And who's to say if Kanye couldn't be two-faced to Drake, that he couldn't be two-faced to all of us when he's saying, it's all about love. It really, again, just for me, just adds to this pattern of behavior Kanye's been locked into lately. And I think I'm just going to, again, leave it at that. Over here next to my head is another video that you can check out. Hit that up or the link to subscribe to the channel. Anthony Fantano, Kanye, Drake, and Pusha T forever.